Okay, so this week we're going to be taking a look at this Teac X1000R reel-to-reel tape deck. This unit belongs to a friend of mine who's had this in storage for the last 10 years. It was stored in its original box in a temperature-controlled environment, but when we got it out yesterday, we discovered that the pressure rollers were frozen in place and not engaging to the capstans, and this is a very common problem among Teac reel-to-reels. Grease will harden on the pivot points for the pressure rollers and they will no longer move fluidly. So we're going to address that issue and do some playback and record testing with this. And my friend tells me that this unit maybe has 100 total hours of use on it since it was purchased new back in the early 80s. So very nice condition, very beautiful to look at from the front. So definitely going to be a nice treat to get this up and running and do a little playback record testing with it. Our intro music this week is In Through the Outdoor album by Led Zeppelin, and one of my favorite songs from that, In the Evening. So we'll hear a little bit of this and we'll get started on this Teac. All right, coming back in, let's have a look at the awesomeness that is this tape deck. Very nice unit, and really dig how they have the screw type reel fasteners on it. And my friend does have the reel hub adapters to use this with a set of 10-inch reels. He also has a set of Teac 10-inch reels and also the Teac dust cover for a set of 10-inch reels when they're on the tape deck. Taking a look here, power button on the far left, followed by the reel size button, switching it from 7 to 10 inch. 2 speeds, high and low. And then an auto reverse switch. You can do side A, stop, side A and side B and stop, or just continuous between the two sides. Variable speed pitch control on it, and tape lifter. This does have a digital tape counter on it. It tracks your minutes into seconds, hours of the tape. And the dupli-sync, I'm not sure what that's all about. Maybe if you hook two of these together, it syncs them up, playback and record. I have to consult the owner's manual for that. And then of course, soft touch controls for all the transport. Rewind, play, stop, pause, record and mute. Play for the forward side, fast forward and record. You get an output level, a line level, and a microphone level control. And then of course your monitor switch. You're getting 3 types of tape on this, and then the record mode, on or off, followed by the dBx noise reduction. And of course, the 2 beautiful analog meters, 2 mic jacks. Nothing too impressive on the back. As you would expect, there is line in and line out RCA. I'm not sure if I seen that it has a DIN connector, but it might. Don't see one. You're going to get the duplicate, dupli-sync, DIN plug, and then if you wanted to, you could add the optional wired remote control to this. So, very nice. I think the first thing we need to do is get it out, carefully get it out of this housing. And this housing has a few nicks on it, but other than that, it's in really, really nice shape. So be careful and get it out of that so we can have a look at the mechanism and just get an idea of where our problem is with our pressure rollers. So give me a minute for that and we'll come back. All right, picking back up, day 2. Did get the outer wood cabinet removed, only to find an inside plastic shell. Got that removed as well. Plus a little bit more. Working my way down to the mechanism portion here. where we're going to find our pressure roller arms nice and locked into place. Also discovered a nice gooey capstan belt to go with those. But as you can imagine, quite a bit of disassembly involved just to get you to the point to where you can get to this, to where you can work on it. All the original factory marks for the head alignment is untouched, and it will obviously remain that way. And the way that this is set up is, this is attached to the front plate right here. And I believe you could probably get this out through the back, but I'm going to remove the front plate just so I have access to more things that may require lubrication. And I think I'll have an easier time working on this from the front versus trying to remove it through the back. Been kind of meticulously putting everything aside that I've taken off. And one of the things that I did is when I took off the reel hubs is I notated the screw hole as the top screw hole. That way, in case there was something weird in the machining of these to where they need to go back exactly as they're supposed to, that's the way that they will go back. Pressure rollers, beautiful shape. I mean, perfect. These will clean up absolutely beautifully. Both of them in very good shape, so don't have to worry about that. The capstan belt, I almost anticipated that being an issue, although this one is very liquefied, stuck to everything, so there's going to be a lot of cleaning involved in getting that taken care of. So just kind of working my way through it meticulously, and I'll do periodic updates to kind of let you know what my progress is. This is definitely not something I want to screw around with while I'm trying to make a video. So you're basically going to get the greatest hits of the repair as I'm working my way through this. So I'll go a little further and then we'll come back with an update a little bit later. All right, coming back in now with a little bit of a course correction coming from the back side of it. And this assembly here, there's two circuit boards that attach to this. I removed the left side board so it could fall off to the side, and this could be lifted up and out of the way because there's some connectors, wiring connectors that are hardwired in that we don't want to mess with. And what this will do for me is this is going to get me to the point to where I can get the back bracket off of the capstan motor and get access to get that belt all cleaned up. I'm not sure that I need to do anything through the front now after looking at this. I don't know if I'll be able to reach what I need to for the capstan or for the pressure roller arms after I remove this or not. Otherwise, if I don't, then I can just put back what I removed from the front. But this is clearly going to be the best method for getting this off of here so we can get that worked on. As you might imagine, tons of connectors here. Some of these only have one particular place that they'll go, if you can remember which board. In this particular case, it's this board. But some of these could possibly have another spot that they could hook into. And on those, I've put symbols or marks that kind of correspond to where they went to, so I don't get that in the wrong place. But it is definitely a process getting this apart, getting it down to where you need to be to get this belt out of here. And I'd be much happier about this if I knew there wasn't a ton of liquefied goo that I'm going to be cleaning up on this belt, but I know that there is. So that's where we're at. I'm going to go ahead and get this off and we'll start the cleaning process, and then we'll come back and check in. All right, checking back in. Now I've got the capstan motor bracket completely removed from the capstan assembly inside the unit, getting a really good look at the gooed up belt that's quite a few decades old now. But I might get lucky. It looks like I might be able to peel it off if I don't get too aggressive with it and not have a ton of cleaning to do. I'm sure hoping that that turns out to be the case for the capstan itself. But it's laid in there pretty good. Now from what I'm seeing just right here, I'm still not seeing real good access to the pressure roller arms. That's going to need new lubrication, and I'm still seeing that might be something that's going to have to be done from the front, or at the very least, the rest of this mechanism will come out. There's only screws holding it to the front plate, so we're making some progress. So I'm going to try to get all this cleaned up, and then we'll go a little bit further and try to find out how we're going to get to our pressure roller arms to get those taken care of. So working our way through it, just taking a little bit of time. All right, picking back up now for a status update. Got all the gooed, liquefied mess cleaned up. Got very lucky on the capstans. One of them, it just peeled off in a complete piece. The other one, I just kind of very slowly wrapped it up in a cotton swab, almost turning it into a pressure roller. Didn't get so lucky here though. Had to remove the post off the capstan motor, but I wanted to do that anyway just so I could get a drop of oil down in there. But it was completely liquefied here. I had to clean it all up, and that's where the bulk of all those cotton swabs are coming from, is getting it all cleaned up here. And basically I just use the service cement solvent, basically acetone, pure acetone, to get it all cleaned up. And then after that, use a soft towel with some Windex on it just to go over it one last time. And you want to make sure every drop of that black goo is cleaned up off the capstan plate everywhere. You don't want any chance of that getting onto the new belt and contaminating that. So that's kind of where we're at. Next step, we're going to take, this is the solenoid arm that engages the pressure rollers to the capstan. So we'll remove this and get prepared to pull this assembly out through the back, not through the front as I'd originally stated. It looked like at that time that the front may have been the best way to go, but it is actually the back of the unit that is going to be the best way to do it. So we'll pull that out through the back and focus on getting the arms for the pressure rollers unseized and get new grease, new lubrication put on those. And to assist in that process, to make this a little easier, I did go ahead and remove another switch assembly that sits on top up here. Got that out to make things just a little bit easier to get to. But working our way through this very slowly and very methodically, but that's the way you have to do it, just to make sure everything gets done correctly and you don't miss anything. So I guess the best advice for anyone that's never done this before is make sure you have all of that mess cleaned up. You don't want any of this on any part of this. It all needs to be clean. And once you get it cleaned up, check your hands, make sure it's not on your hands. All it takes is one drop of it on your finger to get onto something else, and then you're going to have a problem. So we're getting there slowly. So we'll come back with an update once I have this piece completely out. All right, we're coming back in, having this portion now removed out of the front plate of the unit, so we can really get to where the issue's at. And we're going to find that these posts right here are what's causing the problem, and these are so stiff. So I'll get this bracket off. We may even need to heat this up a little bit with a pyro pen just to get that liquefied enough to get those off. But one thing I wanted to tell you is the head assembly, we have not touched any of the alignment. All the alignment screws are totally fine. This complete bracket that all 6 heads are on, which you're going to get 2 erase heads, 2 record, and 2 playback, all that whole assembly rests on these 4 posts right here. And there is no alignment to that. It's fixed in place. So as long as you don't touch any of the screws with springs, you are golden. And that'll make it so much easier to work on now that we have it tore down to this level. And one thing to notate is where you took everything off of, where our wires are routed back, where wires are fixed to where they don't move, where they don't interfere with anything. So definitely want to pay attention to all of that. But now that we got this all tore down, we'll start to disassemble this, get it to the point to where when we press on one of these, it springs back immediately, and that's kind of what we want. We want everything to be very fluid moving, and all of that grease has just hardened up. So we'll work on that a little bit, and then we'll come back and kind of start the reassembly process. All right, so as we come back in here, I'm just going to kind of give you my method for taking off any type of lever like this that's frozen to a post. Now, me personally, the absolute last thing that I would want to do is I'd want to take a screwdriver and start prying up on this. I don't want to risk bending the metal, breaking anything, but more than that, bending it. Once you bend it, then getting that pressure roller to hit back perfectly on the capstan is questionable. So the way that I like to do it is we're going to use this. This is a pyro pin or a Weller Portasol small torch, and we're going to heat up this area right here. And once we heat that up, it'll start to liquefy that hardened grease, and we can easily remove this without much effort. But the first thing we're going to do before we do that is let's tip it up, and there is a spring holding a lot of tension on this thing. Let's see if we can get to it here. I'm going to release that. So we don't want anything crazy happening. So let's light our torch up. So we'll just kind of start to heat this up, and as we're moving it, it'll start to get easier and easier, just like it's doing right now. And then we should be able to pull up on it and get it to move. And there it comes. See, that's just a much better method than trying to pry up on that. All right, we're going to pick back up on this one. Now having both sides, taking them both off. The last clip got cut off a little prematurely, but you get the gist of what I was trying to tell you. Using the torch to heat this up, basically it'll liquefy that hardened grease, and the whole assembly will come up, and there's two pieces to it, and you'll be able to see that. If you tip it back or tip it up, you'll kind of be able to see a little bit more than I can show you in this demonstration without taking it all back apart again, which I'm not going to do. But these two pieces come up together with the spring in between them, and once they come up, then you'll just clean off all the old grease, put your new layer of grease down, put it all back together, and you can just do one side at a time. Of course, this bar comes off, and you can just do one side at a time, and you'll put new grease everywhere of all the moving parts. So you get the result of a unit that springs back perfectly, and there's no hesitation to it. One other thing I want to mention to you that I do is you'll see these little braking shoes right here. I don't know if they're really braking shoes. I think they're more or less just resting shoes, and there's an indentation in this side right here, and that indentation was over on this side where the post is. So when I took it off, I just flipped it around, so we'll have the good side to start with over here. And these are still in pretty good shape. They're not real soft or anything like that, but turning them around will kind of give you a new, a new side to work with, and the same with the one that's in the center right here. I did the same thing with this one. Just flipped it around because there's an indented part on the other side. So now that we got all this taken care of, I think we can go ahead and get this piece put back in, and or get the heads put back on and get this piece put back in, so we don't have to worry with that anymore, and then we can move on to the capstan belt. And I don't think I have a capstan belt for this, so I'm going to check, and if not, then we'll be ordering that, and we'll probably pick back up on this next week versus the Pioneer SX3900. I did order lamps for that, but this is going to be more of a priority for me to get this up and going because there's so much of it taken apart. So give me a minute for that. We'll get this piece put back in. All right, we're going to pick back up with capstan mounting plate assembly put back in the unit. switch assembly here put back in, the solenoid plungers and linkage put back, and I went ahead and returned everything back to the front panel since none of it really needed to come off anyway. So, don't have a capstan belt. Gonna have to order one up, and so we will be finishing this one up next week, but everything's coming along very well, and there shouldn't be any complications unless we find something over and beyond the mechanism problem, but we won't know that until we get the mechanism to the point where it'll work. So I think that's going to wrap it up for right now, and like I said, capstan belt should be here certainly by next weekend, and we will get this beautiful old unit finished up. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you next week.